This is Everything's Messy podcast. I'm Sarah. Welcome to today's show. I have an incredible interview for you today. It's just a great story. It's a messy story. We have talked a lot about chronic illness and the ups and downs of that, the messy journey. Everything's messy because, well, it is. And this is not anything to shy away from that. I feel like when we talk about wellness and, the mindset, that encompasses a lot. And this journey specifically today that we're going to share with you is an incredibly messy journey, but it is an incredible, inspiring story and how he came through the mess. He found the strength, and it's just an impactful and powerful story. And he tells it so much better than I do. So without further ado, please help me welcome Devon Taylor. All right. Well, welcome to Everything's Messy. This is a great episode. I have with me author Devon Taylor. Incredible story, incredible messy journey. So Devon, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. This is awesome, exciting, and I'm just grateful. Thank you.
So you guys can't see him, but you should see this costume that he's wearing for Halloween today. It is spectacular. I believe it's Luigi.
Yes,
Yes.
me and my partner are Mario and Luigi.
I love it. It's awesome. It's so great. Unfortunately, you can't see it, but I am getting close to video. So maybe we'll have you back on. You'll have to wear something crazy again.
Yeah.
So why don't you just tell us a little bit about, maybe a little bit before the messy journey and how all that came to be?
Yeah. So I honestly, first and foremost, I love the title of your podcast. So I was so intrigued when we met and you were kind of going over it and telling the story about where you came up with the idea. So how it fits in with us is perfect because my family is made up of all sorts of mess that
And aren't we all? And let me just say too, the way Devin and I made our acquaintance, we did a joint podcast together, and it was a really cool concept. It was sort of like a roundtable experience, and I feel like you and I just clicked on some of the topic matters that we were talking about. And I'm just so grateful that you're here.
yeah, absolutely. I think even with having kids now, because that's something that was new to me, within a few years ago, just us connecting on that kind of helped me realize that doing this podcast or even having that connection with you was something that was super essential for this next phase in my life. So
Yeah.
yeah, so how I became an author is first, and not in the most traditional way, I would say, for most people that become authors, is I took in my four nieces and nephews. They were in a situation that was pretty dangerous, and they were taken out of their home and placed in social services. We got a call one day, and I was on my way to work. I was a volleyball coach, so I would travel from Paris to Long Beach and
Oh,
back.
wow. That's so interesting. My middle plays volleyball. She's just starting out in middle school, so she's very excited about that. But that's an interesting connection as well.
I love that. Yeah, volleyball is a great sport. I say if she loves it, try to stick with it because it teaches so much that I was able to use with raising the kids, just like about discipline and structure and all that sort of stuff.
So
Yeah,
back up a little bit for me. You are their uncle. Is that
right.
correct? Okay.
Yeah. I'm
So,
cool.
and were you close to them like before?
You know, yes and no. Like we had a connection and I would hang out with my nieces and nephews, but I didn't have a very good connection with their parents. So around the time before they were in social services or they got placed, I was actually having a rough time with mom and dad. Mom had kind of completely disappeared. Dad was kind of just blowing in the wind, doing his own thing. But the kids and their best interest was not being thought of. And so I knew initially when everything was going on and kind of how things were going, we would have to step in, or I would have to step in at some point or eventually just to help. And in the capacity that we did step in, I didn't think, it would be that much, but it was something that we couldn't say no to. So we kind of,
And when this started to transpire, are you able to say like how old the kids were at the time when this all started to happen?
so now we have a 16-year-old, 12-year-old, 8 and 9. at the time, because it's been 2 years now, it was 6, 7. Damon was 10. So Olivia had to 14.
So an array of ages and just all sorts of things going on for them as well, just those different ages.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you're going back and forth to volleyball, just, doing your thing, maybe seeing them occasionally. And then what is the, trigger, the catapult that puts us all into the messy journey?
Yeah, so I got a call from my mom specifically, and she called me and she said, so I got a call. Damon was put in the hospital, who was my nephew. Yeah, it was really bad.
Oh my goodness.
So bad. He was in the hospital. He had 2 broken eardrums, just an array of different things that were super abnormal for the situation they were living in. And so she was kind of just explaining to me why he was in the hospital, that all of the kids had been taken, that she got a call from social services, and they wanted to know if we were willing to step in. And so, I mean, I didn't have kids, so my initial thought was, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to help? I'm not dad material whatsoever. And so I just started counting myself out and not really, talking to myself in the best way, or being supportive of myself. And I got home, and my partner, John Carlo, was laying down and, just hanging out. And I walked up to him, and he could tell something was going on, and was, what's up? What's happening? And I kind of hesitated at first, but then eventually just told him and said, we might be taking in my nieces and nephews, and we might be parents now.
Wow. That's heavy for both of you, I'm sure. My goodness. Talk about the moment though, because you had mentioned that you didn't think you were dad material, which I don't think is obviously the case, right? Look at what you've done. But talk about the moment that you sort of had that epiphany to, like, step up and do what you did.
Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest, it came with the support that I received from my mom and Giancarlo. When I told Giancarlo, he initially was, I thought he was going to have a different reaction. I thought he was going to be like, whoa, this is a lot for kids. A lot of things went through my head. He
Sure.
got me right away, and he stayed and said, we got this. This is something
Wow.
we wanted. We wanted kids. We were just talking about this. And so he just stepped up to the plate and was ready to support me in this new venture in our life with taking in 4 kids. So I was lucky. I lucked out with, having someone that was willing to step up and help me raise the kids, but also we were lucky enough to even have a situation to be able to house the kids,
Sure.
somewhere for them to go. So it just, I think the universe, God, the way things just aligned,
Sure.
kind of come to that understanding that being a parent was something that maybe was aligned for me in this moment. And, looking back on it now, I can say definitely it was something that was aligned for me.
Sure. So talk about the initial, like, transition and chaos that ensues, right? I'm sure there's all sorts of emotions, and on their end, on your end, trying to help them feel safe, and all of that comes. So talk about just a little bit that transition, and then maybe when does it start to subside and start to feel like this is the right thing?
So when we first arrived and got them, obviously they were ecstatic to see us and happy. And we went home, and, on the way home, my youngest was kind of quiet or kind of to himself. So he didn't say very much. My nephew, we already had kind of a connection. So we started talking, catching up. But initially, like, I want to say the first weeks when we got him into school, which is a whole nother thing, because I just learned through the whole school system. I'm gaining a different opinion, we'll just say. And so
I hope to lure you onto the homeschool side eventually. It's a big leap, but I think you can do it.
yeah, we definitely are going to entertain that. And I've been, poking at the kids a little bit, like, homeschool. They're stuck in the whole idea that they'll lose their friend, blah blah blah, whatever. So we'll tackle that very soon. I'm sure of it. But within that first week, I noticed that there were just things that were coming up, just natural emotions, like they would, go from 0 to 100, with their emotions and just be angry, like, screaming. My niece, she would throw things, or she has autism. She would, get really angry and just verbally throw things, or, just kind of, how do I describe it? It was just a lot of raw emotion. And so for me personally, what we did and how me and Giancarlo really tried to be the best aids for them, I would say, is we allowed them to have that emotion and
Yeah.
validate.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even as adults, sometimes we don't know how to handle our emotions, but as kids, they certainly don't know how to, and everything is bigger and it's a bigger emotion. And I can't even imagine.
And just even them, like what they had been through, I couldn't even imagine that, being a kid and an adult striking me, or, someone being so verbally abusive that I, start to be negative to myself. Like,
Oh,
those were things that I wasn't used to. So I really had to put myself in their shoes and kind of really just understand that this was all built up. This was all part of their past, what they had been through. I think one of the biggest things that we did was, initially we got them into therapy. I know karate has been something that we entertained early on and has really helped with just like the discipline and structure.
sure, sure.
We're just trying to open their minds to the possibilities that they can do and be whatever they want. And that's what kind of led me into writing the book, with, because I was in a place where they're having all of these raw emotions, they're trying to figure out who they are. And I was, I had to quit coaching to be here with them. And so I had a 9 to 5, but that wasn't like who I wanted to be or how
Sure.
I lived within myself.
So that's a great segue. So talk about how this book was born. How did it come to be?
Yeah. So I mean, after,
Well, first, let's back up. The
yeah.
I want you to have the opportunity to say the name of the book and how it's doing and everything. So go ahead and do that.
So the name of the book is Icarus Finds His Power. It's a children's chapter book. So far it's doing great.
Which is I read it. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. Um, and I have so many questions about it. But so go back to so here's this idea that comes to be.
Yeah. So initially when I was thinking about it, I really sat with myself, meditated, talked with GC, and we were really just trying to find like ourselves, and how we can be the best representations for them. And so after doing a lot of soul searching, I realized that, writing was something that I had a passion for, something that I had put to the side. And
Had you ever done any serious writing before? You had?
I done, but never published anything.
Ah, okay.
Like, I have a bunch of things that I've written and just booked away, because I would get to a point of writing and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. This will be great. But how do I do it?
Yeah.
And give up and, not do it. And so I know when the kids came, they were talking about being YouTube stars and,
Of course. Of
um,
course.
the new age thing is to be a YouTube star. And so I was like, how can I relate to that in the most, I guess, honest way for myself? And that was to write a book. And so I brought the idea to the kids and they were super excited about it. They offered to write or to draw the illustration. And so I was like, oh, this is perfect. We can use their illustrations. I'll write whatever they draw and then we'll create a book.
I think it's fantastic that you included them. And that had to have brought you guys closer together in some way, right? Some sort of common goal to work together for and to just learn about them, I'm sure. I mean, did it help you see in things in them and maybe that they see in you?
Absolutely. I think they are so talented and they have such bright futures that I think just doing that little project at the beginning, when we were starting with the illustrations and, the little bit of writing I did, you could just see how vibrant they are as human beings, just they're full of so much potential. And so that really resonated with me and kind of propelled that whole entire journey. And anytime I felt like, can I do this? Should I do this? Thinking about their power and their essence just, brought that life back to me and allowed me to push through. So,
That's amazing. So the main character is Icarus. Was his sort of embodiment, was it compilation of those four? Was it you in there too? Like, how did he become?
yeah. So Icarus he's an embodiment of, I like to say, of all of us,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, his inspiration it pulls a lot from my nephew, and his experience as far as like how he's explained how he's felt through the process.
Is he the oldest?
Yeah. Well,
So he's able to,
he's the most, I guess he's the most expressive. So
okay.
in a lot of detail, how he's feeling, what happened, and just, we just talk about a lot of different things. So I would take a lot of the emotional side of my nephew, and that's Icarus. A lot of the mental side of Icarus is me. A lot of the action side is all of us. There's so many elements to him that I just pulled from different parts of people that I know and situations that I've been through, and tried to compile this character to really
It
resonate with that.
it felt to me, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I'm kind of getting the vibe. It felt to me like you took this very tragic, thing that had happened, but you pulled it all into strength to show that you did something positive with it. Would you say that's yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you read the book, he goes through something that's pretty traumatic for any child.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to connect on that. Like, children that go through something that's truly traumatic, there are not a lot of stories about that. And there are not a lot of people that understand.
Well, sure. And mostly it's because people don't want to talk about that. It doesn't make them feel good. But I feel like to get to the other side, you probably need to dive in and talk about it. And I feel like the way that you did it, I mean, that's pretty incredible. So talk about the idea of, I don't want to give too much away, but like the animals, and is like the wolf, is that also, where you draw, like, is one of the kids maybe that embodiment as well?
Yeah, so it's so funny. I love that you're asking these questions because it makes me feel so seen. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, the animals really, so funny when we took the kids in. So funny story. Let me back up a little.
Sure, sure, sure.
When me and JC were walking one day, we were walking with just my dog Love, and we were walking with my niece's baby. So she had a little baby, and she was over for Thanksgiving, I think it was. And we took her on a stroll, and we took the dog, and we were just laughing and joking to each other. What if we had a bunch of dogs and a bunch of kids, and then boom, kids here.
You spoke it.
Well, and now it's here. Right after we got the kids, Love, which is my pit bull, got pregnant with a foster husky we took in, Juno.
Yeah.
We didn't think what would happen. They ended up having babies, and we had one dog that led to, I want to say 13, and then at one point we had like 18. It was ridiculous amount.
Wow, that's a full house.
So we were just, I think when I wrote the Juno character, I was more so trying to just pull in that animal element, because they're so much a part of us, as human beings. And I think humans tend to forget animals and like almost like a secondary
Hmm.
facet. And I wanted them to almost be like equals
Sure.
in the story. And
Well, and there's elements to that too, because sort of the part they play as to why you were giving them that credit. I have to say, one of the lines, I did laugh out loud, was when he actually says, he talks about the name Icarus, and he's like, "Didn't he die in the sun or something?" And I could almost picture him saying that. But it was like, it was so real, because obviously you had to address the, mythological story about Icarus, but the way that you did it was truly like, I think kids they would understand that. Like, it was a really funny, I was like, oh, this is great.
Thank you. I tried to throw in as much as I could that would make me laugh or be true to me and my storytelling. And that, you have no idea. It sits on my heart when I hear this because I met a young reader that had read the book I didn't know, and he met me and was like in awe because he loved the story. And it's almost, I keep saying this because it keeps happening. It's like almost unreal to be in those situations and to have someone appreciate your art because it took so long for me to get to this point.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, and I just think, I mean, there's other things. Talk about a little bit, um, is do you say Sunny or Sunni? Because I wasn't sure how.
Sunny, yeah.
Sunny. Okay, so where did she come from? Because I feel like, again, not wanting to give so much away, but she's a very especially in the beginning, right? Where did that come from?
So Sunny, I honestly have so much appreciation for every parent, but specifically for all of the mothers.
Mm.
So my mother included, she is based off of my mom and how I felt when I was being raised. But
Wow, that's such a great compliment to her.
I love my mom immensely, and she has been a rock for me in a lot of different ways, especially with the kids. But I've always had this thing as a kid, our appreciation for mothers. Like I've always, stared at moms that were just so caring to their kids, or had an appreciation for women that went above and beyond. And I just know that there's so much that comes with raising children now with experiencing it that I think when I was writing her, I wanted any parent to know that like they're appreciated.
Definitely.
Like sacrifice you guys are giving is appreciated. So
Well, and I love too how you sort of give her a backstory about how she was sort of the caretaker before she was the caretaker. It was sort of always her instinct and in her nature to sort of, take care of what needed to be taken care of. Is it, does your mom help now with this, the situation? Is she there? Do you call her and be like, Mom, oh my gosh, this is what do I do?
she's right there. She's been right there from the beginning. I would say that, me and my partner have been like kind of spearheading the raising the children part, but she's right there with us, holding
Yeah.
our hand, making sure we're okay, making sure the kids are okay. We just moved. And before we were, living with my mom, and so we were all under one house, and so she kind of she works, so she would leave but come back and be here with us and take the kids for the weekend, so me and JC could go out and do her thing. But yeah, she's been supportive with them. She was supportive with me. I know there was a rough patch when my brother passed away when I was in high school, and that was super
I'm so
devastating.
sorry.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was one of the most surreal moments of my life, but really eye opening because I got to see a lot of different adults act in different ways. But for her, I could just feel how much love she had for him and how much she was hurting. That I think it helped me realize, as a kid, like how how much she's doing or how much she's sacrificing on a day to day just to make sure that we're safe, to make sure that we're okay. And
How old were you when that happened?
I was 14.
Wow. So pretty big realization at that age, right? That's really um powerful to say, to know at that age what you were seeing.
I think I grew up really fast in that moment, which is I wouldn't say it's like the most ideal, but I feel like every situation prepares you for the next. And because in that moment I had that realization, I would start helping out more with the babies and the family. And my sister, she had a few kids at the time when he had passed away. And so I would babysit a lot and
Wow.
just be more present and try to be there for the children because it was like almost like an instinct picked up in me. And so I feel like it helped me get
Sure.
to the kids that we have now. So
Truly a messy story at a very young age. That's incredible to have gone through that. I'm very sorry for that. But it sounds like you have, like I've said it in the beginning, you've sort of taken that and it's like catapulted into this strength of just, a pillar of strength, basically.
Yeah, it was a really hard situation to deal with when I was younger. But as I've grown up, and ironically, my nephew is named after my brother Damon, so he's like that reminder that like his spirit is alive
Oh,
and we're all
wow.
us, and Damon is so smart and so bright that I can see my brother in him. So there's like a comfort that comes with having my nephew around me 24/7. I do miss my brother,
Of course. Of course.
but
Yeah.
I think we've all grown from losing him and been able to become, that much.
Yeah. Together. And now you sort of have your own close knit now, right? And sort of rally around the kids. And so um what do you see for them? Like, you mentioned therapy. Are they adjusting, or have you sort of come out of that fog now, would you say?
I would say, yeah, I think for me personally, a lot of it was just comfortability for them. The situation, taking them initially was like the first battle, and getting over that hump of becoming a parent and getting used to it. Uh,
And that all takes a while.
yeah,
That takes a long, long time to just even sort of breathe in your own self and be like, okay, there may not be, 15 crises today. Maybe it'll just be 3 crises today, right? Like that takes a while.
yeah, and we're still learning. I
Yeah.
feel like we're still learning. Me, JC, the kids, we're all still learning. But I think the amount of love that we have for each other is seen between each other. So we're able to kind of, I don't know, push through those hard moments. And, I'm really quick at apologizing if I do something wrong. And I don't know if that's something that parents normally do. My mom,
Well, they should. They should.
like, oh, I wouldn't do it sometimes.
No, it's definitely I've learned with all my children, because I'm not perfect. We all make mistakes, and I think the quicker you can let your ego go or your pride go and just talk to them on their level and be like, Mom had a bad day. This
Yeah.
was out of character. There's no excuse, but I completely apologize from my heart. And I always try to use the expression, can we start over? Not forgetting it, but just, can we start over? And that seems to just help everybody's emotions just kind of, okay, it's past, all right, it's fine. And I think it's a good idea too, and a good lesson for children to see that their parents aren't perfect. So they know how to grow up and be an adult and to own their mistakes and know that it's actually okay. There's another saying that we always say, my son loves it. Making a mistake helps your brain grow because you learn from it, right? And so that's, I think, as a parent, like I said, if they're not, they should be.
And it's funny because me and JC, we have like a difference between like saying certain things in front of the kids, or like having a little bit of arguments in front of them, and I'm like, I don't want to have any argument.
Right.
um he's like, they have to see like some kind of naturalness between us, because if they're just saying, oh, perfect, perfect, perfect all the
Sure.
time, then that's what their image of a relationship should be. And then if they're not in that type of relationship, then
Then what?
then what?
Yeah.
So I'm trying. I've done where I pull them to the side and say, we're not perfect. Everything that we do may not be perfect. We're arguing sometimes. Sometimes that's not appropriate. The way that we say things, and I own that completely, and I want you to know that. Like, if you're in a relationship like that in the future, like that means that's time for you guys to talk, or
Sure, but a conflict is a part of life, and I
right.
think teaching the kids to be able to either resolve the conflict and let them know that there's just sometimes that conflict is going to happen. That way, like you said, they don't grow up and be like, well, if it's not perfect, if everybody's not getting along, then they start to feel unsafe if everything's not perfect, right? That's a really hard balance, because I think as parents, we want to put on the perfect facade, and we always want them to feel like there's no problem, because we never want them to worry, right? But then they grow up and they can't tackle any problem that comes.
Absolutely. And that's my biggest fear is just not and something I'm still working through, and I know that I'll eventually find some solace in, but my biggest fear is just not preparing them for
Sure.
life.
Sure. So going back to the book really quick, um, first, is there a sequel? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah.
If you're not allowed to say, I won't put you on the spot, but it's enticing to know if there will be one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm working on the sequel right now. I'm really I really have enjoyed just having this first book out. So I've been trying to um just really resonate with it and allow people to resonate with it before the second one comes out. But I really want the second one to resonate with people because I feel like right now in today's world, everyone is figuring out like you're either going to do what you want to do or that time is passing. And so I want that next book to inspire people to do what they were called to do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
the things the book will be and where I'm going.
And I certainly don't blame you for staying in that moment and just sort of, relishing with everything that's going on. Do you have do you do readings or anything like that?
Like public readings?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I haven't. I would love to. It's just that the timing of it all. The closest thing that I've gotten to a reading was I did a speech in Naples,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
and just kind of talked about the book, but more so how the book came to be and our situation with the kids and whatnot. But I would love to. I know that our local library would love us to do that for them, and I'm open. I just think it needs to align with everything that we're doing with the kids and whatnot.
Sure.
But yeah,
That's
that's
that
great.
that's amazing. I love that so much. And like I said, I'm a fan. The book is fantastic. Um, eh, there's a part, and again, I don't want to give a lot away, but the let's talk about the challenge that Icarus faces. Where did you like? Where did that come from? Like he obviously the challenge is there, and then how he like the specific way that he overcomes it. Can you speak a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I would say the challenge came from the kids' situation, but also related to mine, because a lot of people don't know that when my brother passed away, my brother lived in Temecula in
Okay.
the house, and my mom moved into the house when he passed away, and I was going to school in Lakewood and didn't want to change my schools, so
Oh,
for 2 years, I was separated from my mom while she lived in Temecula and I lived in Lakewood with my stepdad.
oh wow.
And so, yeah, that was a big challenge for me to kind of just get used to her not being there and not hearing her voice or not being able to talk to her every day for 2 years. And um, I didn't remember that until we got the kids. And me and John Carlo were having a conversation, and I was just talking about, when my brother passed away, my mom moved to, oh, right. She moved away. Like, oh my
Oh
God,
yeah.
with her. And oh my God. And like,
One of those things you just kind of shove down and not really want to deal with because it was sounds like at a crucial age, number one, and two, it was painful.
yeah, it was a lot at the time. And I think it was a lot for her too, because she didn't necessarily want us to stay in Lakewood, but she understood that we had established relationships, we had friends, that. And so she respected it and did what she thought was best for us at the time. And I don't regret it, but it was something that definitely changed who I am as a person today. It
Hmm.
influenced me a lot. So that's kind of where his struggle came from with I'll just say, just with him losing his mom and that
Hmm.
whole situation. But um,
And then so to the specific way that he sort of rises up, would you say that was sort of you and the kids with what you went through and just I don't well, I want to say turning it into something good, but he had to find it, right?
And I think, yeah, because I think for us, we all are put in situations that we have to not deal with, but find our way out of and use the support systems that we have to navigate that. And so, with me and the kids relating to Icarus and his situation with his support system, I always wanted them to know, like, at the end of the day, Uncle's always here. I'm always here for you if you ever need anything. And it's ironic that, they ended up with me, but it was kind of like the universe's way of showing them that I got them.
Yeah.
They you got me, I got them. And I wanted the universe to show Icarus, even though he had been through something really hard and, lost something that was really important to him, the universe had his back with, the support system that came in to kind of fill that gap as much as they could.
And I think, like I said, it's incredible. Talk a little bit though. You just mentioned briefly the illustrations. So did all four help with the illustrations, or was it you too? Like what? How would that go?
Yeah, it was all four that helped, but mainly Olivia and Damon, which are my two oldest, are the ones that really were adamant about creating the characters and just giving me examples for the scenes that we set for.
Because the imagery writing is incredible. So was the illustration done first and then you wrote about it, or was the writing done first and then the illustration?
Yeah, so a lot of the illustrations were done first, and what I would do is I'd say, oh, I want to, how would I describe it? I'd say like, oh, I want to see the light goddess in the outside of Aurora. And Olivia was like, I got that. And so she drew that picture, and I was like, oh, wow, perfect, and then I would just write through that. And then I'd say, I want Icarus to look this way. And he was like, I got that. And so he'd draw that. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. So they just took what I was saying and drew their illustrations, put them together, and then whatever they drew, I took to the illustrator and said, I want this, just in an illustration form, but I want the essence of what they've drawn to
Sure.
pull through in the book.
And so is Juno, does he look like does he? Because when you write about it, and if you close your eyes, you can kind of see like his chest puffed up and like, kind of scrappy and ready to go. But the way that it all came together, truly inspiring, and just such a great way to take something very tragic and just, put something that you could do with them together and sort of help them have not replace what happened, and certainly they'll always have those tragic memories, but to have something to think, okay, but then we're okay, and this came out of it, right?
Yeah, yeah, it feels super special. Like I said, it wasn't something that I initially thought would happen, but with just the power of intention, we were able to make the book. They're I feel like because the book is made now, they're going to be superstars because they see it. Like,
They saw it, yeah.
you did this, you were there. They saw me on stage. Like,
Yeah. Well, and they sort of saw the process from the beginning, to accomplishment. That's really big for them to see at that age too.
so I'm glad. I'm glad everything worked out the way that it did, and I'm just hoping to continue on the path that we've created with them, and to just help them be the best versions of themselves.
Sure. So, okay, so four kids. How many dogs?
Mhm. Now we're at 6.
Six dogs. Oh my goodness. Okay. Any other animals or pets?
I love that.
One cat. What does the cat think of all the dogs? I bet she's the ruler, right? Or he? She kind of keeps it
Yeah,
in line.
he's the king of the castle.
Okay.
He's occupying our bathroom because that's just his space,
His lair.
hiding in there. But yeah, we're a full house right now.
That's great. Okay, so as a parent then, can you give us like a funny story that just maybe you were caught off guard and you did, maybe it was bad at the time, but now you can look back on it, it's funny. What can you leave us with?
Oh, what's funny is uh, I think it's funny because it was a true emotional reaction from my nephew, Noah. It was early in the morning and we were getting ready, or no, it was late at night. and I was tired. It was because we were moving. I was super tired, and I had asked him if he wanted anything to eat, and he said no. And so, I kept doing what I was doing. And then he comes back and he's like, "So, I'm hungry." Okay.
As kids do.
Okay, so let's go make you something to eat. And so we're going through all the things we have, and it's just like, uh, uh, mm, mm, mm. And I'm like, "Nola, I need you to help me decide right now so that I can continue what I'm doing." He goes, "Okay." And he like picks something. But then, as I'm preparing it, he goes, "You sounded upset. Were you upset?" And I'm like, "Yeah, a little bit." He goes, "Yeah, it seemed like you were a little angry." But was super genuine about it, like, "Well, okay, Mr. Attitude." But I just loved that he felt comfortable enough to just say, like, "Are you upset?"
Yeah, that's a true, yeah, definitely a true emotion.
Just, feeling that upsetness from me and being like, "Whoa, let me, give him some space." Like, he feels safe enough to ask me and
That's
talk,
great.
still tell me how he feels, even though I'm upset. So I just, when I have moments like that where they're just so true and authentic to themselves, it makes me feel really great inside, because I know that kids don't always have that with their parent, and it's really even hard to have that with other adults.
Absolutely. Yeah. Most would shut down or just try to be passive or ignore it or something like that. No, that's great. All right. So tell us where people can buy the book.
Yeah, you can buy the book on Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. You can, if you'd like a signed copy, I sell them on DevonTaylorAuthor.com. I'm more than happy to leave a loving message for anyone that would love to go through in the shop. But yeah, you can find it just about anywhere.
That's great. And then how can, if they wanted to follow you or why don't you list, and I'll go ahead and put those in the show notes as well. But if you want to tell everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm on all social media platforms. So TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. TikTok and Instagram, it'll be Devon Taylor Author. Facebook will be Devon Taylor Books and Merchandise. And then we also have a YouTube channel, Devon Taylor Author.
Awesome. Well, I so appreciate you coming on the show. I wish you a great happy Halloween, and I hope continued success with what you're doing, and sounds like you're doing an amazing job with those kiddos.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And hopefully we can maybe have you back on if, there's other sequels or things that we can talk about, definitely get into.
I would love to. Yes, anytime.
Thank you so much. And if you have a messy journey or a messy story that you would like to share with us, if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, send me an email at everythingsmessy@gmail.com. You can also find me at Instagram and Facebook at Everything's Messy Podcast, also YouTube and X at Everything's Mess. So please reach out if you've got questions. I'll be putting all of Devon Taylor's information into our show notes. Tell us what you think. And thanks again so much for listening. Take care.